Okay, so let's go in and start our first operation type. What we're going to do is we're going to be facing this 3/8 inch sheet. We're going to face it down to this first level top of the part. As you see, that level is at Z minus 0.0545. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a facing operation. We're going to go to 2-axis. We'll select our setup, go to 2-axis. We're going to do facing. Okay, for the geometry, that's going to determine the perimeter or the extents of your facing operation. We're going to do select curve edges, and we're going to pick this outer curve right here on the outside. Okay, for the tool, let's go ahead and save this because I'm going to load a tool real quick. Let's cancel out of there a second. I'm going to load a tool library. I have two libraries here. One is a tool library and the other is a knowledge base. They both have the same file extension. So if you do save a tool library or if you use the knowledge base, just make sure you describe it a little bit different unless you know that it's actually a tool library. So it's loaded 7 tools. Okay, let's go back into our facing operation. So we got our drive region selected. The tool, we're going to use a face mill. We're not going to mess with any feeds and speeds. Those are all relative to your machine or the type of cutting that you do. So we're not going to change anything. Here for the clearance plane, this is always going to be set to automatic, and we're going to transfer at the clearance plane. So here is the clearance plane if we zoom in right here. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and, okay, there's one thing that I did not do. Let's go, let me save this because I want to make sure we align this stock with our XY plane. And what we're going to be doing here is our drawing lies on the top of the stock. Okay, so you can see, maybe you see that drawing a little bit there at the top. So you can align the stock with the top. In other words, align it with the geometry on the top of the stock, the geometry on the bottom of the stock, whichever makes more sense to you for making sure you understand the cut depths. I have it set to the top because it seems to be a little bit easier for understanding your cut depth. So if this is the 0 is at the top, you know, it's pretty easy to understand how deep you're going. Okay, so I have it set to top for Z alignment, and I have it set to center in the X and the Y. Okay, so let's go back into our facing operation. So the tool, feeds and speeds, clearance plane, and the roughing operations, we're going to, the tolerance can be anything because we're using a large face mill. The tolerance in 2-axis only applies in the X and the Y direction, not necessarily to the depth, okay? So we're gonna leave that set to 01. We're not gonna leave any stock because we're cutting all the way off the edges of stock material. We're going to do an island offset cut pattern, a mixed cut direction. We actually can increase this a little bit for the offset because we're using a large cutter. Okay, for roughing and the cut levels. The cut levels tab on any of your 2-axis operations is probably the most important tab that you need to pay attention to. This area right here for your cut levels, this is what you're going to use to control your depths. In the drawing, you don't have any depths identified. So that's why I asked you to go ahead and create or sketch out on a piece of paper your elevation views. How deep are the different features that you need to cut? Okay, so this facing operation, we're going to bring it down to the top of the part, which is at minus 0.0545. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to enter the top location of our cut geometry. When we start, I placed it at the top of the stock. Okay, so we're going to leave the location of cut geometry to at top. At top, okay, is going to be the top of the stock, but it's also going to identify that the cut depths are going to be measured from the top of your geometry. Is going to be measured downward. That's why I said it's a little bit easier to understand if you have your geometry at the top of your stock and then you're machining downward. So we're going to go down right here. We want to go down 0.545. So we're just going to type in on the cut depth, total cut depth, we're going to go down 0.0545. So that's the bottom of our facing operation, okay? And we're only going to do it in one cut level. So everything we do is only going to be one cut level. If you need to do more, you can use these controls for the rough depth per cut, etc., to identify how many levels that you're going to cut. And we have plenty of other videos that goes over that as well. So all of our operations here, most of them are going to be just one cut level. So we have 0545 for the total cut depth. It's going to be starting at the top and cutting down to 0545. And let's just look at the, we don't have any entry and exit. We could do some lines and arcs since we're coming in from the outside to face this off. We don't need anything there. We're not going to use any optimization, just click generate. Okay, so here is our facing operation. Okay, you'll see that it cuts down to 0545 below our geometry. This is the top of the stock right here. Okay, and let's go ahead and simulate that. Any questions? Go ahead and put them in the questions panel. Okay, so we machined a facing operation, okay, to bring that stock down to our 0545 level, which is the top of the part, okay? And we're going to be looking at this cross section as we go along. We can correlate it with our drawing up here to make sure that we're in the right depths. Okay, so that's our facing operation.